All right, welcome back to the Align Life Podcast. It's me, Rachel Freeman, and I'm here with my co-host, Dr. Devin Shea. And this week we are joined by the OG man in the low-carb world, Mr. Jimmy Moore. He's throwing up some gang signs over there. If you don't know Jimmy, what are you doing with your life? You really should. Like I said, he's an OG paleo man or low carb man. He's the host of 5 different podcasts, which we're going to talk about today, including the Livin, Vida low carb show and his brand new show, the Keto Hacking MD Podcast. He's also an author of 100 books, including the Ketogenic Cookbook, Keto Clarity, Cholesterol Clarity, and many others, and the Complete Guide to Fasting, which I just got my hands on. And he's showing them to me in this picture, so you'll have to watch this on the YouTube. I met Jimmy last weekend in person in Vancouver, Washington at the Nutritional Therapy Association, and within 2 minutes we knew we instantly became best friends. I'm not sure if it was just our deep conversations or our embracing hugs that lasted for about 20 seconds or so, which happened over the course of 10 times, Jimmy? I mean,
at least 10 times,
we had
yes.
These long embraces, and you just can't help to feel very safe and comforted in his presence. So welcome to the show, Jimmy. We're really excited to have you.
Can I hire you to introduce me every time I go on a show now? That was awesome. Thank you. And I'm glad to be here, guys.
Thank you, Jimmy. So Dr. Shea wanted to talk a little bit about his little story about between you and him.
So, Jimmy, I don't know how many years this ago. It's maybe 7 or 8 years ago. I was a chiropractor. I'm still a chiropractor, but I was a chiropractor in a little tiny clinic in Poway, California. And I got word of the whole paleo trend. I started applying it to my life, saw some amazing results. I was really excited about it. And I was like, man, I wonder if there's anybody else on this planet that kind of digs this stuff and does it at a great level. So I went online, and literally one of the first people that I ran into online was Jimmy Moore and Livin, Vida low carb. And I went on there and started kind of interacting a little bit. But then the best part that happened was you allowed healthcare providers to start signing up onto some sort of a pre-approved list of providers that subscribe to this type of lifestyle.
Yep.
And immediately I was like, yep, I want to do that. I want to do that. I want to do that. And so amazingly, I've had referrals from you from
nice.
7 or 8 years ago, and we've never met, which I think is badass.
Well, one thing you're going to learn about Jimmy Moore is I'm a pay it forward kind of guy.
Dude,
because
yeah.
I see everything that good that has happened in my life is a direct result of that generosity and the selflessness that I try to live by on a daily basis. And so thank you for that. Yeah, that still exists. It's called a Low Carb Doctor's blog. Yeah. We're about to change it over to a new website. We're revamping it, making it look all pretty now, but it's coming out in a revamped way. So yeah, I'm happy that it's helped you.
Yeah, so thank you.
Cool. Now that we've talked ourselves for 10 minutes, let's listen to Jimmy talk. What do you say?
Wah, 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 wah.
So Jimmy, I know you're probably used to this, but our audience may not know who you are. So could you give us a quick rundown of how you got here?
Yeah, so in 2003, I weighed 410 pounds, was on 3 prescription medications, high cholesterol, high blood pressure, breathing problems. I was a ticking time bomb at the age of 32. And had watched my own brother Kevin deal with some cardiovascular issues related to his health, his weight. He had type 2 diabetes. And so it all just kind of cascaded suddenly on him when he was 32. And I was like, okay, that's my fate if I don't change something. But every time I defaulted to whatever I thought was the right thing to do, it was always a low-fat diet because that was all I ever heard. Then my mother-in-law gives me a diet book for Christmas. I want you to psychoanalyze that one for me a little bit because she had given me diet books every year, but for this particular year, they gave me Dr. Atkins's book. And I had never really given a shot at looking at what the Atkins diet was because, that was a heart attack on a plate in my eyes. And so I get this book and I'm reading it from Christmas to New Year's. And I'm like, okay, cut your carbs. How are you supposed to have any energy if you don't eat carbohydrate? And then eat more fat. This guy's a cardiologist telling people to eat the very thing that we know will clog your arteries. So but I was like, you know what? I've tried all those other things. This is something I've never tried. So let's give it a go. So January 1st, 2004, stepped on that scale, 410 pounds, and was not fun. And I wanted to really do something. So I was highly motivated. It was funny. It started off as a New Year's resolution to lose weight. And what it ended up turning into was a new life resolution to get healthy. I did lose 180 pounds that year, but more importantly, came off of all those prescription medications. And really cool was how it propelled me to this online stardom, so to speak, of writing about this way of eating and then podcasting about it and then getting to write books that become international bestsellers. It's a cool life.
Yeah, it is, man. Congratulations.
So,
Thanks.
Jimmy, I remember at the conference you told me, I'm like, what is your current eating style? And you said you were primaleo ketogenic.
You nailed it.
Can you tell
with
me?
a little fasting.
Oh, that's right. With
A little fasting mixed
a
in.
hint of fasting in there. It's a little sprinkle.
Just little sprinkles.
Can you explain to our audience what that actually means?
Absolutely. And I love describing it that way because number one, it makes people laugh and it gets their attention, but then you get to explain it. So Mark Sisson talks about primal, and it's not that different than paleo. He just allows dairy. So I say the primal part of primaleo is where I have a little bit of dairy still. And then paleo for the real food aspect and all the reasons why paleo is a really good option. And then doing it within a template of a low carb, moderate protein, high fat diet, which should burn ketones as fat for fuel. So I think all three of those elements are critical for me. It won't be critical for other people because not everybody can have the dairy. So some people just need to do paleo ketogenic or real food ketogenic or NTA style of eating ketogenic. So all of these things are just ways to communicate how I do eat.
So do you feel like most people should be eating a ketogenic type diet or like parts of ketogenic into their diet?
I will give the caveat, I don't think everybody needs to eat keto, but there's certainly no harm in anyone other than maybe somebody with an eating disorder that needs to get that worked out first. Or if someone is uber underweight, you probably don't need to eat keto because it's a highly fat burning mode type of diet. And so those are the only two exceptions I can think that shouldn't eat. Everybody else, you don't see any harm in eating ketogenic. And for people with insulin resistance, absolutely, you need to be doing this and doing it long term. I plan on eating this way the rest of my life. I get bacon.
Yeah.
Bacon is the best. I have so many clients that come to me and are like, I can't believe I'm eating bacon and still losing weight. I'm like, I know, isn't it the best?
Yeah.
It's literally the best. Sorry for all you vegans out there, but you're missing out.
Jimmy, I'm not sure that everyone is familiar with the concept of keto. Could you give just like a basic definition? That way people they're aware of what's going on with that.
I love all the softball questions so far. I'm waiting for the hard ones here in a minute.
I'm just lobbing right now. We'll get there.
So ketogenic, define. No, I'm just kidding. So basically, most people are walking around right now as sugar burners. So they're making carbohydrate the primary source of energy. Number one, because they were told to do that. Our whole standard healthy diet here in America is predicated on having 55 to 60% of your calories coming from carbohydrate sources, mostly whole grains and so-called healthy vegetables and all these other things. So we flip that around. I think when you want to be a sugar burner, eat that way. But if you want to be a fat burner, which is a much more sustainable way to energize yourself, then you have to eliminate all those sources of the carbohydrates that turn to sugar in the body. So you can't be a fat burner if you still have sources of sugar being created. So you got to eliminate the carbohydrates. You've got to even moderate down on the protein because, through the NTP program, they talk about that big long G word, gluconeogenesis, can very easily translate excess protein into glucose, which is sugar in the body. So if you eliminate the carbohydrates, or at least to your tolerance level, cut them way down, and then moderate down on the protein, fat doesn't have any impact on making glucose unless you're doing it beyond satiety. Then there's other hormones that kick in that could cause glucose. But for the most part, fat is innocuous. And so you're making that shift over. It can take probably 2 to 4 weeks for most people. If you're already paleo, maybe even less than that. If you're a standard American diet like Jimmy Moore was and had 16 cans of Coca-Cola a day and whole boxes of little Debbie snack cakes and all this kind of junk food that used to be a part of my life, that boy probably needed 2 months to become fully keto adapted. So it's going to take a period of time for that to happen, and you embrace the real food as part of it.
So let's talk a little bit about that period of time, because I think that's what happens in the keto world, is that people try something for a couple days or a couple weeks and they don't see the results that they're looking for, or they think that I can't do this, and then they blame the diet. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think I always get cracked up when people write on social media, I've been on keto for 3 days and it failed, so I'm stopping. And I'm going, 3 days? You're not even started yet. So I always tell people, give this way of eating at least 60 days, because by 60 days, if you're not feeling well, either you're doing something wrong in how you're doing the diet, and or there's something going on metabolically that maybe an NTP could help you kind of figure those things out. There's ways to optimize it, but most people will see the results within just a few weeks. So you can't say a few days. I did keto for 3 days. You didn't do keto. You reduced your carbohydrate, maybe upped your fat, but you weren't keto.
Just a little disclaimer: when Jimmy says NTP, he's referring to a nutritional therapy practitioner, and which is under the Nutritional Therapy Association, which is where I have my certification. So just want to clarify for anyone who's wondering about that.
Slip that in there.
Shameless plug. I am a nutritionist, and so if you're looking for help, I am here. But anyways, back to Jimmy. Here's the thing: people, or what I hear from people and my clients, is they want to do keto as a tool for weight loss. And they're like, what's this keto thing? I'm all about keto. And they jump right into it. And then they don't have the tools and the support system and the long-term mindset to make it sustainable. And in our office, and what we believe is all about like health for the long term, sustainable health outcomes. This is usually, we believe that these sustainable outcomes are based in the client's like self-worth and their ability to like want to make long-term changes and really follow through with that. But because keto can seem like a diet or a tool, it's kind of takes you from the opposite of like being an intuitive based eater or, eating for health or whatnot. So do you have any like words of wisdom for that type of person, or how to like re-explain keto and define it less as like a diet and more as a tool, and how you don't have to subscribe to it for every day? Do you get what I'm saying with that?
I love these questions, guys. So yeah, I have in the last maybe 5 years of my work shifted from this uber focus on weight loss to more on the, on the health gains. I got choked up there a second.
Am I making you cry again? Just kidding.
I'm not going to cry on podcast. I promise. Yes, I did cry. So I think that sometimes we get caught up in the diet mentality because that's what the world has told us to do. That's how mainstream health professionals, you must lose weight in order to get healthy. And so people's motivation is all about weight loss. So you've got The Biggest Loser and you got all these TV shows that reinforce that. And then they go to their doctor and the doctor says, well, if you lose 20 pounds, that diabetes might get better. And they're missing the point. And if there's anything that I can communicate through my work, as someone who still has weight on my body, is look, you can have incredible metabolic health markers even when the weight is still being stubborn. Now, there's ways you can work on it. Definitely see your healthcare professional to figure out what might be going on weight-wise, but it's not the weight that's going to make you healthy. You can get healthy apart from weight loss, and we've seen it in many studies where they look at triglycerides, they look at HSCRP, they look at fasting insulin, they look at all these kind of key markers that say, wow, if I didn't know what your weight was, I just looked at you on a panel, I would think you're pretty healthy. And then you see them with a little bit of weight and people kind of go, oh my gosh, I deal with this on a daily basis from people kind of criticizing my work. How do you talk about health when you still have weight on your body? I can because I have health. That's how.
Yeah.
So would you say that the people that are most successful on keto are the ones that are chasing more of health versus like aesthetics?
Oh yeah, and see, here's the thing: when you chase health gains, there's something magical that happens as a side effect, and it's the weight loss. And it doesn't always come immediate, and that discourages people. So here's the thing, guys: if you still have a scale, I want you to go buy a friggin' sledgehammer, put it out on your front porch, and just beat the crap out of that thing, because I haven't stepped on a scale in so long, and I just recently completed a 1-week fast, and everybody was asking, how much weight did you lose? Heck, if I know, I don't have a scale. And so I think we become slaves to that scale, I guess is the blunt way to put it. And that is going to mess with you mentally. It's going to mess with your stress, which makes the wait stay even longer. So at the end of the day, I'm all about a de-stressed way of eating that makes you healthy and in the end should lead to weight loss.
It's funny because our default mechanism is to go back to this weight loss, because even following your journey over the last 7 days, I was like, I wonder how much weight Jimmy lost through this. It's like our
I know I have lost
It's
weight.
like
Yeah.
even someone who's so conscious about not getting on a scale and encouraging clients, my default thought was like, I wonder how much weight he lost, as if that's like a measure of health.
And a lot of people asked that question. It was probably the number one question I was getting in comments, how much weight? But I got a really cool comment from my wife, because she's like, come here. I want to turn sideways. I was like, oh, okay, this is kind of weird. Where are you going with this? You've lost weight in the belly. I was like, yeah, I would hope so, not eating for 7 days. But, it was really neat that she saw that quantifiable result. And of course, I put on pants and was on a belt buckle up in the belt. And so I knew I had lost fat, is the way I'll call it. I don't really care about what the weight loss was, but I do care that I'm losing fat again.
So can you explain to our audience briefly, who are like, what, 7 days fast? What does that mean?
Fasting, what?
Why was he not eating to lose weight? Like, what was the point? So briefly, will you explain why it is that you did that? And it was really fun to watch his journey with doing this. So if you're not following him on Instagram, you totally should.
Thank you, at Livin Low Carb Man. So yeah, fasting is what I call the other F word, because back in the day, 410-pound Jimmy Moore having all those Cokes and fast food and Little Debbie snack cakes would have scoffed at you even mentioning fasting. And even like a few years after my Atkins journey and even after losing weight, I never understood it. I always viewed it as, why would you starve yourself? If you're hungry, you should eat. But I didn't realize there were so many therapeutic effects to it. I remember I interviewed this gentleman, Dr. Thomas Seyfried, on my podcast, Livin' La Vida Low Carb Show, 2008, 9, somewhere in there. And at the very end of the show, he's a famous cancer and ketogenic diet researcher. At the end of the show, he said, if you want to prevent cancer, once a year, go on a 7 to 10 day distilled water fast. And I remember it was just like at the end of the show, and I was just like so stunned. Wait a minute. Okay, that's all the time we have. Goodbye. And it shocked me, but it stuck with me for so long that I started exploring it. But I saw other people talking about intermittent fasting, and then some of my friends in the paleo community, Rob Wolf and Mark Sisson specifically, were, dude, you got to try this fasting thing. Okay, I don't really know what I'm doing. And I made all the rookie error mistakes of adding in other things besides water. Now I can do it water only and salt, and it's a breeze. But it's something that I had to kind of work through, kind of like the diet thing. I had to kind of work through all those diets that failed before I found the one that was right for me. I had to work through, all right, am I really hungry, or what is this signal that my body's giving me? Gurgles don't mean hunger. Is it head hunger? So what were the benefits? Basically, there's so many. I mean, right now my brain is on fire with ketones, still kind of in the afterglow of that fast, and mental clarity, mood stabilization, the autophagy benefits, which is a fancy schmancy word for cleaning up the dead proteins that are in the body. So many ways to quantify why you would want to fast for a long time beyond weight loss. And obviously you do lose weight too.
It's funny to think, because if you even ask people to like skip dinner, everyone's like, oh my God, I couldn't skip a meal. So to think of going 7 days without food it seems pretty intimidating.
But I didn't just jump to 7 days. It was this working your way up. I intermittent fast pretty much on a daily basis, because when you eat keto, you're so satisfied, you're not hungry. So I can easily make my last meal of the day at 6 o'clock at night, wake up the next morning, I'm not really hungry for break fast, because that's all the word means, is break fast. Everybody calls it breakfast and thinks it has to be at 7 or 8 o'clock in the morning. It just means the time you break your fast. So how about we move that break fast to noon? And if you go from 6 p.m. till noon the next day, you just intermittent fasted for 18 hours and got great benefits.
It's so funny, Jimmy, because I think we talk about how society often dictates how we expect our day to go, or maybe the outcomes of our day. I think growing up, my whole family, we scheduled our entire day around meals. It was especially during holidays, it would be okay, so we just had breakfast. It's around 10 o'clock.
Mm-hmm.
And then my mom and dad would be like, okay, guys, what are we going to do for lunch? And then it was like, what? Oh, well, you know what? We don't even have any time to do anything else because between right now at 10 o'clock, we're probably going to start eating like at around 11:45. So we may as well just keep eating. And then what would we do for dinner? Right. And it's literally that all day long on holiday. Like, how do you think my body did on a holiday? Like coming back, I was like, yeah, it was nasty. It was gross. So I can totally relate to what you're saying. So can I follow this up? Because I've attempted to fast one time in my life, and I was highly unsuccessful.
What does that mean?
I'm a married.
How long did you go?
It was 2 days.
Okay, 48 hours.
48 hours, and I'm a married guy.
I'm sorry. I mean, congratulations. Sorry, Christine.
I realized that I was the most annoyable, like
you were angry.
Like hangry.
Yes.
And
Can I explain what happened?
I have a comment though. Dr. Shea is hypoglycemic, so he was not ready to be fasting.
No.
He has
Thank
underlying
you.
blood sugar imbalances that we work on regularly. He was not.
That's where I was going.
Fasting.
Have you guys figured out that this whole show is about me getting therapeutic help and how my life was a ticking time bomb? Yeah.
Let's make him cry today, Rachel. So
that happens every other time. Don't worry, Jimmy. You're not alone.
So I think the reason why you weren't successful with the 48 hours, you weren't getting a proper electrolyte balance. Because if you start feeling those feelings of bleh, and usually day 2 is when they hit, you just missed the nirvana that comes from like a 5 to 7 day fast. Because if you got past that bleh in day 2, which if you have some blood sugar dysregulation that's making you have hypoglycemia, you got to get that fixed first, dude, before you even try fasting. Okay. Because your blood sugar will dip very quickly. And if you're not getting the adequate ketone production that would step in the place of that glucose, you're not going to feel well. So I would think maybe extra salt and potassium for somebody like you might have mitigated those effects. And by day 3, you could have been, it could have been like perfect.
So would you recommend that like doing a fast on like during the week? I have a busy job. I'm on my feet. Yeah. I'm running. I exercise. Is fasting something that would be done during that time period, or would you recommend like on a weekend where I can just slow down, kind of decrease my output, my calorie, You
need to make it at a point in your life when you're not stressed. Far too many people try to go. Are you always stressed? Is that why Rachel's laughing?
I'm laughing because I'm thinking of you.
Well, yeah, but I just did 7 days under that situation, my dear. I was not stressed at all. Okay. So when you're under stress, that's a stressor on your body that's going to impact your blood sugar levels, which could make you hungry. A very physically demanding job will also do the same thing. And so, yeah, I would try the weekend. Start on that Friday night when you get off work and you're chilling. Maybe, if you drink a glass of wine or whatever, do what you got to do for your Friday night, but then start right then after you do that, and then fast all the way to Monday morning. And I would be curious to see how well you do. You might even say, whoa, Jimmy was right. I got past 48 hours and it's amazing. Yeah. Why would I stop this on Monday? But just do the Friday night to Monday morning thing and let's see how you do.
I have a couple comments for Dr. Shea, since this turned to be about him for the moment. One,
Dr. Shea therapy session.
One, he should probably pick up the book that I brought home about the Complete Guide to Fasting, which I see in the image there, which I have over on that shelf. So yeah, he should check that out. 2, Dr. Shea is looking to put on mass and make gains and get swole.
Yes.
So do you recommend fasting for those that are looking to gain weight not just gain weight, but gain muscle mass? And obviously with that comes a little bit of fat gain.
Most of the bodybuilders that are being very successful, there's a really cool one out there. Robert Sykes is his name, Sikes. He's known as Keto Savage. And he is a natural bodybuilder who uses a ketogenic diet with intermittent fasting to build muscle. So definitely look him up. But yeah, I think anything that's going to lower, some of the hormones that are involved in the muscle growth and accelerate other ones that help with the muscle growth is going to be a good thing. And keto and fasting do both of those things really well.
That's cool.
Okay, cool. Well, I'll help Dr. Shea out with that one. So moving on.
Thank you, guys.
Jimmy's flexing. So What the cool thing I do know about fasting, or at least intermittent fasting, is it gives you an opportunity to be able to tap into your body's hunger cues, which as a society, we don't really know what being hungry actually means. We think that the second we get a little rumble or the second our blood sugar dips, it means that it's time to eat. Do you feel like that's a huge benefit of fasting, is really a chance for people to tap into their body and learn how to listen to it better?
My goodness, that has been the biggest thing that I've learned. I've done 3 21-day fasts now and several 1-week fasts, and I intermittent fast basically daily. You realize all of those things that you thought were hunger aren't really hunger. I can tell you throughout that 7-day fast I just completed, there were moments that your body's kind of going, okay, what's going on here? And they give me little gurgles, but I knew what it was, and I knew how to mitigate that. The salt under the tongue is so valuable when that happens. But yeah, since it's been over, it ended on Tuesday night, and I had a meal. I woke up the next day and I'm like, I'm not hungry. I went the whole day yesterday and didn't eat a thing because I still wasn't hungry, because I was so used to this fast. It kind of retrained me of going, okay, what's real hunger? And I think helping people identify what is true hunger from what is not, and 99% of that noise in your head when you think you're hungry and you should be eating is just, it's the time of day, gurgles, whatever. Everybody else is eating, so it's time that I eat. And so for me, it's kind of trained me of, hey, dummy, maybe you're eating too often, too much, or a little of both. So I haven't eaten today. It's now about middle of the day. I probably won't eat till 5 or 6 o'clock tonight. And I'm good with that. And I'm able to do that. And I'm in complete control of that. This is a key point too, of I'm not starving myself. I'm purposely not eating because I'm simply not hungry. And when that signal kicks in that I am hungry, that's when I'll eat.
Okay, cool. I have two follow-ups. One, is your audience
just
for now, is your audience mostly men or women?
I would say most of my audience over the years has been women. Maybe like a 70-30, simply because when you have a weight loss success and a lot more women, let's be honest, a lot more women they care about their health than the dudes. There's a lot of dudes that do care about their health, but sadly, most of them, they follow the lead of whatever their women are doing. So most of my followers are women.
Okay, and 2, I'll get back to that in a second, but in 2, when you say you're fasting or intermittent fasting, can you explain to our audience real quick, like what that means for the rest of your caloric intake for the day? Because some people generally tend to eat lower calories, or some people eat the same amount of calories that they normally would, just in a more condensed block.
So for me, it's definitely the more condensed block. So let's say you're doing that 6 to 12 thing I talked about earlier. From 12 until 6, you're not constantly eating, but you'll have maybe a couple of meals within that window, maybe just the one meal if you're feeling well. And so I don't really count calories, so I have no idea whether I'm keeping to the same amount of calories. I've learned that I need to be eating more intuitively in order to, let my body tell me, do I need a little more food today than I did yesterday? And I think it's dependent on your stress levels. It's going to depend on how much exercise you had on that particular day. So it's going to vary. But I think the bottom line is, don't skimp when you're on the feeding time. That's when you feed yourself. And then that way, when you go to the fasting time, you don't have worries about being hungry because you adequately nourished yourself. And if you do it with real food, you get all the micronutrition that you need in there, as well as the macronutrients that are right for you, then you should be okay to be able to intermittent fast like that.
Okay, cool. Thanks for clarifying. So back to my comment about women. Do you, because most of your audience is women, and I'm assuming a lot of women probably follow the protocols that you recommend. So if they're fasting or intermittent fasting, do you find that they're able to better work through some of their emotional eating? Because once they remove some of the physical components, that, sometimes women and men, but mostly women, we tend to be more emotional, so we eat more in an emotional state. So what have you noticed has happened with that?
Oh, it's certainly a challenge for women, because women have your time of the month that also can impact why fasting wouldn't do well. So I think you just work around those kinds of things like we were talking about earlier with your co-host. Don't do it when you're stressed. And for women during your time of the month, that's a stressor. Don't fast during that time. Wait until it's over. Wait till you feel good. And maybe some women don't need to fast, long fast at all. maybe just an intermittent fast of just kind of getting through your day without eating for a period of time is a major hurdle if you've got stressors in your life with kids and jobs and cranky husbands and, all this kind of stuff. It all adds up. So you have to tailor it to you. But I don't see any reason why a woman couldn't or wouldn't want to do this to see the benefits that come from it.
I think sometimes we tend to overcomplicate fasting when in reality, like if you just stopped eating by 5 or 6 p.m. at night and you didn't eat breakfast until like 9 or 10, that's technically
That's
an
it.
extended fast, which isn't
That's
really
right.
that hard. That's pretty much how I eat every single day.
Right.
So we get some of those benefits in an easy way rather than, that doesn't seem as overwhelming as like an extended fast.
And here's the other thing. When you're not eating, you're fasting. So when you finish whatever meal you had, just imagine, okay, did I eat adequate amounts of food and especially fat in that meal? If you did, then you shouldn't be hungry for at least 6 to 8 hours after eating a meal like that. And if you get hungry sooner, what was it about that meal I just had that stoked hunger, that stoked insulin and ghrelin and all these hormones that we know kick in hard when it's trying to tell you, hey, dummy, you didn't feed me adequately. Go back and look at that last meal because you should easily be able to go 6 to 8 hours, if not 16 to 18 hours between meals.
I think that's so huge, and that's like one of the biggest questions I get with clients is what can I snack on? Even in like a paleo world or real food-based approach, it's like I need more snacks, and I'm thinking like, well, actually, you don't need snacks. If you do, that's a sign that either you're emotionally eating, you're bored, you're not addressing something in your life, or two,
Yes.
you have imbalanced blood sugar, which really needs to be addressed. But in reality, people should be able to go at least 5-6 hours at the minimum between meals. And some people are like, oh my God, I can't even go like 2 hours.
Right.
Yeah, that's two things. That's one, too many carbohydrates stoking the blood sugar and insulin, and or two, not enough fat and real food sources of even like saturated fat. There's so many women still scared of saturated fat. Embrace the dark side. And what you'll find is, and don't go back, yes. And then, you'll see that satiety will kick in very easily.
Jimmy, you guys talked about trying to make keto easy for people. Do you have any other recommendations that would make it, easier to manage, implementable? I'm just trying to think of like working in like whole food diets, especially during that time period when you are eating. Is there anything else you have for, making this more just time efficient and so forth?
My goodness, plan ahead. I can't tell you how many people say, well, there's no way I could eat that keto diet. It's too much preparation and I'd rather just get a lean cuisine or Hot Pocket. And I'm going, all right, let's look at the nutritional value of said foods.
Hot Pockets.
Hot Pockets. See, the marketing worked on you.
I know, right?
What's Lean Cuisine's little jingle? Do you know?
I don't know.
They don't have one. It was a joke.
I used to eat those. I don't know.
I did too, sadly. That was my mom.
I
Anyway.
ate Hungry Man dinners. Does that count?
Oh, I had those too, man.
Yeah.
Big old plates and have that little thing that looked like an apple something. You didn't know what it was.
And you have to pierce the foil or whatever that is.
Gross. Oh my goodness, it was so gross. But in hindsight, gross. But yeah, I think getting people to understand about batch cooking and even buying in bulk, even grass-fed beef and organic vegetables and eggs and things like that. Just showing them how to do it. This is something that I think is so missing within the ketogenic world. Is there's a lot of people talking about, getting the macros right and here's how you eat but nobody's kind of showing here's how you do it. Here's the real world of it all. Here's how, if you think you're too busy, spend 4 hours on a Sunday, work out all your meals for the entire week, and then all you got to do is pull it out. And that makes it so convenient and easy. And plus people, they like recipes, but some people go, I don't want a recipe. That's too complex. They just want to get something that's going to tell them how to eat and make it simple. And I think if they do that, that's the beauty of this.
Totally. Okay, I think we should switch gears for a bit.
Sure.
Okay, enough of that keto chit chat.
No more keto crap.
Yeah, onto the real stuff. No, I'm just joking. I wanted to talk a little bit about like the reason why people feel so connected to you and the reason like you're a hugger and you're deep relationships with people, because here at the Align Life, aka our chiropractic clinic, we're all about forming deep connections with people. We call it like our wolf pack. So tell us a little bit about your wolf pack and how you have formed meaningful relationships with. I mean, you've been in this field for a long time, so you obviously have a very loyal following that has followed you from point A to point B, and majority of them, I'm assuming, have stayed by your side the entire time. Just talk a little bit about that and in detail.
Yeah, my philosophy has never changed. From day one of Livin' La Vida Low Carb, it was always to educate, encourage, and inspire people to live their healthiest life possible. And how did I do that from my standpoint was to try to be authentic. One of the things that I saw when I was going through my weight loss journey in 2004 was a lot of fakery. And you still see that fakery here today. And there's nothing that disturbs me more than to see people that are in it and you can tell they're in it for the money, they're in it for the fame, they don't really care about people. And I wanted to set myself apart from all that crowd by being a real person and by being authentic and by, you come up to me at a conference and you give me a hug and you feel like you already know me. It's because of that connection that we made through the work that I do on my blog and on my social media and definitely through the podcast. When they hear your voice, especially when you got a Southern accent, they just, it's so endearing for people to hear that they really do love you. I did a post the other day where someone had called me some really ugly names on a social media page, and I posted about it, and I got so much outpouring of people just saying, that guy doesn't know you. That person just has no idea who you are. And most of those people I've never met in person, and yet they're my tribe. They're the people that I connect with, that they connect with me. And it's why I do what I do. It's why I remain passionate. I think the reality of the situation of just being me, warts and all, I still deal with the weight stuff. People still follow. They want to see the journey. How do you work your way out of that? If I'm going through good things, I'm sharing. If I'm going through bad things, I'm sharing. If something really funny strikes me and I want to share it, I share it. I don't care if it's not keto. I get some of that crowd sometimes. Yeah, it's not keto. I come here for keto. And I'm like, all right, I am a human being that has feelings and likes to be funny sometimes. And so let me be that way. So I think people appreciate that.
I definitely could see that, and I see that like through your Instagram that you don't have like a curated feed, like it's not perfect. It's just like you and what you're feeling in that moment and what you have to offer, whether good or bad, and it's just like really relatable. And I think that's why, especially women, feel so comfortable in your presence, because it's like the real deal. Like, you struggle, I struggle. Let's talk about it. It's okay.
Right.
This is safe. It's a very safe space. That's what I feel like when I'm on your page.
Yay. Mission accomplished.
I was about to say, that sounds like very successful. So, Jamie, we've talked a lot about, throughout our episodes, having a wolf pack. One of the main reasons why we're here is to connect. I've noticed throughout my experience going to conferences and having an opportunity to work with people who I feel like are thought leaders, one thing I've noticed with them is that they are all huggers.
So, all the good ones are anyway.
They are. And I thought, a while ago, I noticed this behavior from a guy by the name of Billy DeMoss, who he runs the largest chiropractic conference in the world. It's called CalJam. It's in Southern California. It's amazing. By the way, Jimmy, you should probably try to get on that stage. It would be
CalJam.
CalJam. It would be amazing.
Sounds cool. I don't know what it's about.
Mercola is there, and there's a bunch of other, like Josh Axe and so forth. And
sure. Hey, send him my name, man. I'll be there.
Okay, I will. Actually, I'll see if I can connect you guys. Anyways, after the show, there's thousands and thousands of people walking around. They're all professionals. Billy DeMoss, he walks around. Every person that he says hi to, he just hugs them. And I noticed the behavior, and I think it satisfies two things. Number one, it satisfies the desire for both the listener, the receiver, to feel connected to the person giving the information, but it also provided him security that if he had met the person or had some contact, but he couldn't remember because he has so many people in his world, that it just took out both of those things. And I was like, damn, that's really smart. And so I started trying to implement some of that behavior in my life and just sort of being the hugger. Now, from Rachel's experience, she's briefly told me that you guys had a few hugs the other day at the conference, and I was like, man, maybe Jimmy's onto this thing too. So I'm curious, what's up with the hugging? Why? Like, is there a deeper thing about that, or is it just purely like who you are and you like it?
Because of the authenticity aspect of my brand, I even hate saying it that way, but people know Jimmy Moore, Livin' La Vida Low Carb, and how connected they feel to my story personally. They're family. they're already friends. I'd never met you before last week, Rachel, but as soon as I saw you and we started talking and you connected with who I was, come here. Got to have a hug. That was just, and plus it's a little bit of my Southern culture. We hug everybody down here, but, I didn't do it with a methodicalness of, well, what if this person, I know him already and let me hug them. And none of that even comes into play for me. If that's a bonus of it, then great. I'm glad to know that's, I didn't think about that before, but for me, it's just that connection. And then after a conference or something and somebody's met you, then they're a fan for life. I got hugged by Jimmy Moore, and it was just, you don't want to devalue that connection that people have to you. There's one connection people can have when they see you online and they hear your voice on a podcast, but then there's a whole nother connection when you've gotten a hug, you've gotten a free gift from me. There's just something about, hey, I know him now. And so many of the friends that I have that have been like online friends, I've now met in person, and we're really genuinely good friends and talk on the phone and those kinds of things. And so it's cultivating this real relationship that I think so many people have lost in this modern age.
Yeah, so that's exactly where I was going is for the listeners, guys, if you desire deeper connection in your life and not living at a surface level, you should be hugging more people. And I know that sounds so...
Even if it freaks them out, do it.
Right? Like, there's some people that will react differently to it, and you'll kind of give it like the little like side kind of deal.
Oh, that's horrible. Yeah. I hate that when they turn sideways.
Yeah, or they'll kind of just like pat you weird on your back. But here's the thing. At the end of the day, if your goal is truly to have deep relationships, I think a physical aspect of that in an appropriate environment and done the right way is a essential component to deepening your relationship with that person.
I told Dr. Shea that he was telling me that he has been hugging everyone, and he said it was like, a quick 1-second hug. And I said, well, Jimmy gives like 20-second hugs. And he goes, I don't have time for that.
And there was one, Danielle Della Valle, I gave her a minute hug.
We had Danielle on the show, and I got to observe this hugging between Jimmy, who's a hugger, and Danielle, who's a hugger, and they're very passionate huggers. And it was like this beautiful 10-minute ordeal, and we just all
it
sat
felt
back
like
and
10
watched.
minutes. Yeah.
It was really
but yeah, she and I have been good friends for a very long time, and I said when we see each other, we're going to give a hug, and it's going to be longer than anybody's going to give that whole week. So and it probably was.
I love it. Okay, cool. So why don't you tell us a little bit about what a day in the life of Jimmy Moore looks like these days?
There's no typical day because a lot of it is kind of the whatever's happening at that moment. So currently I'm on a book deadline. Christine, my wife, who's an NTP now, and I are working on a book coming out in the fall. Well, I'm on a deadline here in the next 2-3 weeks to get that done. It's fun to me, but it's stuff that has to be dealt with. I do podcasts 5 days a week. And so recording those and getting those in the can and then doing experiments on social media, like the fasting, and just kind of going through everything that I do is kind of how the day goes. I hate to say a typical day. There is no typical day. They're all different, but I have a lady that helps me answer emails, so I don't have to be obsessively behind the computer on that. I also have a guy that helps post a lot of the podcast stuff. So once I put the podcast audio into Dropbox, they take it from there and put it all up for me. So I probably need to hire at least 1 to 2 more people to help with some various things, but busy, I guess would be the word.
What's your favorite part of your day?
Ending.
Ooh, I thought you were going to say
not that I don't
being on this podcast.
Besides being on the Align podcast. I think I just love the satisfaction of having put in a good day's work, an honest day's work, a hard day's work. And people are like, how hard is it to talk behind a microphone and write books?
It's exhausting.
It's mentally exhausting.
It's a lot of emotional output.
Yes. And so when I'm off from all that, it's just such a release for me to be able to just relax, lay down on the couch, watch some TV. We love The Big Bang Theory, my wife and I. So we'll sit there and watch even repeat episodes. And so we just chill. And I think having that rejuvenation time for me gets me jazzed for the next day. And then I just go 90 to nothing during the whole day, but then I stop. A lot of people go 90 to nothing and they never stop to smell the roses, stop to chill, stop to realize, do I really like this or not? And so I love every minute of what I get to do, but I love it when I can stop.
That's cool. Speaking of rejuvenation, what are some of your other self-care practices that you're really into these days?
Oh my goodness. So downstairs from right here in my recording studio, right specifically downstairs, I have so many little things. So I've got a massage chair. And so I'll get in there. I have a sciatica nerve that really gives me a hard time. I need a chiropractor to help me figure that out.
I was about to say, we're going to handle that.
Cool. And so I get in the massage chair and it gives me a full body massage and do that for about 30 minutes. Got a little heat therapy, the little, shiatsu and all that stuff. Then I also have a vibration plate. I'm sure you guys have one in your practice. And so I wish I could be on the microphone and so you could hear. And it's pretty awesome. I love that. I do that for the lymphatic stimulation that gives me for maybe 5 or so minutes. I've gotten good. The jiggling of the eyes doesn't bother me anymore. It did at first, but it's pretty cool. And then I recently just installed an infrared sauna right here in the building. And so I'll go in there for 10-minute sessions. I'm still wearing this continuous glucose monitor on my arm. So as soon as that thing comes out, I'll go longer than 10 minutes. I was advised, don't stay in longer than 10 minutes or you might melt the sensors. So, but those kinds of things. And then, just regular exercise and just going out in the sun and having fun. I like to just run around in my yard. Yes, I'm that guy. And so as long as the kids are locked up. No, I'm just kidding. So I'll do that. And those are all releases for me. And even just getting to just not have to do everything that I do in my day to day. I love the things I get to do. But when I get to do anything outside of that lets me just kind of, it's just awesome.
Do you feel like you're able to unplug or disconnect from work completely in your off time?
It depends on what your definition of the word off time is, because when you're in business for yourself, you're pretty much on all the time. But I'm assuming you mean when I have specific time I've allocated to be off, maybe be disconnected. One of the things that I did on the low carb cruise several years ago, even though I was working on that cruise, I totally disconnected from the internet. Didn't have any internet access, no email, no nothing that entire week. And it was awesome. And I'm even looking at, and you and I even discussed this at the conference, of maybe taking, a few months off at a time where I'm just off of all of that stuff. And I recognize the therapeutic effects that that's going to have. And so, I'm working through all of those things. And when I'm off, I do enjoy it. I enjoy what I get to do in the day to day. Sometimes it can get overwhelming. And so having that off time is really helpful.
Do you incorporate any elements of like a mindfulness practice into your day, or especially during those off times?
So I'm a Christian, so I do pray quite a bit to the Lord. Please, Lord, make this go away. Just kidding. I love doing that. I did recently get this little device that you can put on your head called a Muse. It's downstairs in my therapeutic corner with all those things. But you put it on your head and it's connected to your phone and it walks you through mindfulness exercise, and you can set however long you want to do. And if your mind starts to wander, it will start making a louder noise to get you to calm down. So it in real time gives you neurofeedback so that you can train your body and train your mind that when you start to get that anxiousness, you calm back down. So I'm doing that on a daily basis, trying to help do this in the day to day, because everybody has to live. And if you can't live with the stresses in your life in the day to day, taking a few months off may help, but then you got to go back to all those stresses again. So trying to deal with it in the day to day is kind of my goal right now.
I love that. And that Muse thing sounds really fascinating. I feel
it's pretty cool.
Mine would be so loud all the time. I need to look into that.
It'd be like an air raid strike alarm.
Whoop, 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 whoop. Keto.
Yeah, hell yeah.
Cool. Well, what's next for Jimmy? I know you said that you're currently finishing up some books.
So I finished up a book several months ago that's now coming out in April. That's kind of a follow-up to Keto Clarity. I wrote that book 4 years ago now, so it's time to kind of do a sequel. So that book, Keto Clarity, was designed specifically as an entry level to understanding ketosis and how to do it. This book, called The Keto Cure, coming April the 10th, I don't have a copy close, but it's coming April the 10th, and it will be all about kind of the metabolic pathway of why nutritional ketosis helps with a variety of diseases. So let's say PCOS. We identify what it is, and then we say, okay, when you go keto, here's all the things of how ketosis helps with a condition like that. And then we give you 6 steps for each of these diseases and say, here's things you need to do. Here's maybe some medications if the diet alone isn't helping. Here's medications that will definitely be detrimental to you. Here's supplements that you can add that could help. So we tried to make it pretty darn comprehensive. I'm co-authoring it with Dr. Adam Nally, who is a family physician in Arizona, a DO, and he and I just had fun with this. I gave my commentary in the side column, kind of translating sometimes when he got too nerdy, and so he stays pretty nerdy. So we wanted it obviously to be a little more advanced than Keto Clarity, but we think we struck a good balance.
It looks like a lot of your books are you co-author, you write with another professional. Is that correct?
So I think, yes. I mean, I had the opportunity to write Cholesterol and Keto Clarity by myself. They gave me the book contract. But I decided to, for the credibility aspect, I needed some medical something on the cover. And so for those Clarity books, I got Dr. Eric Westman, like one of the most renowned ketogenic researchers and practitioners in the whole world. And he was more than happy to sign on to do a book with me. And then those books were very successful. But yeah, every single book I've done so far has had a collaborator. I do have a book in mind down the road that I will be doing solo, but it has to wait till all this keto stuff stops being so popular.
Like a life of Jimmy Moore, but like a memoir, but for
the life and times of Jimmy Moore, the greatest boring book you've ever read in your life.
Sign me up for the first copy.
Autographed and hugged, yes.
I love it. Do you have any final questions or comments, Dr. Shea?
Jimmy, where can people find you on social? You guys have talked about the Instagram, but are there other places where they can find you?
Oh, yeah, I'm easy to find. I'm literally in all of those places at Livin Low Carb Man. You can also go to livinlavitalowcarb.com. It's kind of the hub for everything that I do. You can find all the podcasts, literally 5 days a week of podcasts that I do. All the books are listed there. Or if all that's too much to remember, just Google Jimmy Moore, and literally the first 2 pages is all my stuff.
Nice.
I don't know how that happened.
Well, Jimmy, thank you so much for coming on and giving our audience more information about keto and your life and what's going on for you. It was really helpful and fascinating, and I know that our audience is really going to appreciate it. And I just want to let you know that I appreciate you, and thank you so much for coming on and sharing your story
Jimmy,
with us.
we love you, man. Thank you for what you're doing.
Thank you, and thank you for making me cry, Rachel.
Anytime. I'm here for you. So
anytime.
Call me.
Call me.
Talk to you later.